All right, greetings, Go fans. So first off, I had some fruit tisane that I put some macadamia nut milk into. And this is not a thing. Don't do this. Just, that's your pro tip of the day, first and foremost. Second, I meant to post this video a lot sooner, or record it a lot sooner. I've actually been sick this week with like a bona fide cold. Isn't that weird? Like, who gets colds now? Actually, I know exactly where I got it from. I got it from the 4-year-old who's currently running around upstairs somewhere right now. But that's besides the point. I did get a COVID test. I came back negative. I'm going on my second vaccine shot in 2 days, so I'm very excited for all that. But anyway, if you hear my voice start cracking and choking and dying, have no fear. I'm just getting over a head cold. Anyway, today's lesson is called Momentum and Blunders because, well, I played a game, and it was not a pretty game. This was a 30-second move, time limit kind of game. I think it was either like 5 down on Taijim kind of game. And, you know, I want to make some points about having momentum in the game and then also still being able to blunder. And you can see this is going to be quite an entertaining little lesson because if you just look at the winning percentage graph over here, you can see that's exactly what happened where my opponent captured some momentum here. You can see this graph just sort of, you know, going in their direction. I am black in this game, by the way. And then blundered. And then from that, I just had this great momentum coming out, and then I managed to sort of blunder in here. You can see these little pitfalls. But when my opponent didn't respond correctly, the momentum, that same momentum kind of continued. And then, unluckily, I blundered way bad as we were getting basically to Endgame, just before entering Endgame. And my opponent didn't call me on it. So it was totally lucky win, basically. Like, I should have lost here from this blunder. So stay tuned, watch it through, and we'll investigate some of these, you know, momentum and blunder changes and why they happened. The first one, just FYI, is going to be the most confusing. Like, this position, we'll rewind a little bit, we'll replay it. This is a hard go position, like, from here. Even if you just, hopefully you've been listening to what I've been talking about a little bit, but also you've probably been looking at the board and thinking about what's going on here in this game. This is complicated. This is already kind of a complicated fight. And it looks like things are starting to settle. But with the previous 2 moves, you can see white actually sort of upped the ante of this whole attack. So it got even more confusing. Anyway, let's go back and just step through, show you what happened, how we got into this. Again, like I said, here's the game. I am black. I've been really digging, again, playing opposing Komoku to my opponent's 3-4 stone. So, you know, I've just had very good success with that, and I guess technically that success continues. So we're still trying it. It's still my favorite opening. In this case, I'm not even sure why. Normally I would, I played this game while I had a head cold. So this is like not a smart thing to do. Yeah, normally this is automatic. Normally I would just play here, like automatic, right? Use the opposing Komoku. This is the biggest side of the board. And I don't know, I was just, you know, you just, some days you're just a little lost, a little surreal. So anyway, there you go. All right, so then my opponent played this move. And it's 2-space high pincer, you know, super classic. The traditional response looks like this. This is the super classic, standard, peaceful, quote-unquote, variation. And I say peaceful, quote-unquote, because this still can devolve into fighting. But black is looking for peace, basically, just to settle quickly. I did not play that. I played a taisha-like variation. And why have I been playing taisha? Well, first of all, in the Age of Robots, this has kind of disappeared. Like, this is a thing that, at one point in time, like, I spent a lot of time studying, you know, over the years, because as a Go player, this is a variation that you would, I mean, all the variations, right, this taisha shape, large knights cut through a 3-4 approach. You know, one of the most complicated josekis in Go, you know, certainly worthy of several lifetimes of study. And the robots have kind of all deemed it not the best line of play, so we haven't seen it in a while. And I've been finding when I play in my games, because no one's studying taisha anymore, it's like I get good results with it. So, and it's fun. Like, the thing is, it's depending on your definition of fun, one of the most fun variations in the world of Go. And again, I use the term fun loosely. Anyway, we play it. My opponent, totally plays into it. And again, this pincer stone has a lot of different variations. Often you play taisha without a pincer stone here, and then, white is feeling under a little more pressure, but it still works. It's still playable even when you're pincered. You can still taisha out, so to speak. And I hane on the outside, and we play here, and I kind of play this. This is kind of a trick move. And this is a trick move that works really well when black has the ladder. I don't have the ladder, so it really doesn't work that well. But I play it anyway. Again, I'm already in a weird headspace. But this is going to make it very confusing, very complicated. Because you can start to see the problem here is that black has a ton of cuts, and white has a ton of cuts. And oh boy, let's push through and cut all the things. So how do you get out of this? Well, from here, the robot, I think, says white should just push up here. Oh, let's turn on some moves. Yeah, robot says just white should push up. And it says black just give up, just tanuki. So bad, right? And then white will be able to essentially take over this corner. Black will get some remnants of things on the outside. But the robot's just like, yeah, go take another corner. This is a mess. So pretty devastating loss for black in the opening if the robot agrees that this is not the best. And you can understand maybe why no one plays taisha. But the thing is, it's really hard. Like, it's not over. It's like never over. And my opponent does not push there yet. He instead takes this Atari first, and then pushes. And then I play a move that the robot does not recommend. I play here, which I think looks like it looks super stylish, right? Like it's saying, all right, I'm going to defend this group, and once I defend this group, then the corner's under a lot of pressure, and if you do not spend time to fix this, or capture the stone, or do something over here, then I'm going to attack that, right? If you spend time in the corner, I'm going to attack this. If you spend time developing this, well, then I'm going to try to attack the corner. It turns out the timing doesn't work quite well enough for black. White is fine in both cases. In the game, my opponent Atari the stone this way, which is not quite the best, but it's good enough. It does let black settle out. Now, one thing about the shape, this point right here, it may not seem like it, but it's actually a really key move for both players as this develops later on. You probably don't want to play it right yet, but this is a key Atari that in the game I never get. Keep this space right here in the back of your mind. It looks like this is a stupid Atari, right? If white does something and black here does this, this looks like a stupid exchange. And indeed, at this point it is. But once this group gets kind of settled, this is a really key Atari. Okay. Oh man, throat's already getting dry. This is going to get rough before it gets better. All right, white comes out here. Pretty natural move. I jump, also natural move. Both players are getting strength for their weakest groups, in this case the white corner group and my 3-stone group over here. It does show white with a substantial lead, 11% or so. And white pushes here. I sort of stylishly jump here. The robot does not like that. The robot says, do something over here is better. These stones can manage. You don't really have to worry about white pushing up here. Actually, in this case, the robot still does not want to deal with this taisha anything. Isn't that just the weirdest thing? That's a cool move, though. It would not have occurred to me. This is a really cool shape, right? Because if white keeps pushing, right, white gets Atari'd there, and black can come out that way. That's cool. All right. So anyway, there's that. That's actually just a really nice shape find. How do you fix this shape? Because obviously the problem here is this cut, and then you're very crudely walking out. Okay. Anyway, I do not play this side. I still, in my mind, believe this to be my weaker side, so I want to help it. So I put with this sort of stylish move. If my opponent cuts here now, and we block, and my opponent cuts here again, you can actually see how advantageous this is for black, to the point where it doesn't even want white to run out. Actually, in this case, it's a ladder that works. But even if white has this ladder, black can actually still just give up this one stone, and then attack this more severely. Okay, anyway. This move is we'll call it a stylish defense, maybe not the best defense. At this point, my opponent decides to keep the pressure on this group. And this again keeps it in this state of confusion. Black's move here is very big, right? So it lets black also hane and start to whittle the corner down to nothing, or even kill it if black gets another move around here. But timing is when, because it's not the most important move for the life of every group. If white takes this, it's gote for white, and then black will get another move on the outside, and that's bigger. So in this position, white essentially has 3 groups. Black essentially has 2. What's most important? And this is kind of a straight up direction of play question. Like what part of the board should be biggest, right, for both players? And like this one, again, involves the life of these 2 groups. Any move over here kind of involves the life of this group, and maybe the corner. So maybe it's like 2.5. And any move over here really involves also just the life of 2 groups, namely this one and this one. So it kind of feels instinctually that like some move to strengthen this feels like it's the best direction of play, right? This involves 2 groups, this involves 2 groups. This area sort of involves like 2.5. But you'd be... well, here, let's see this. Robot says over here. And this is a cool move. Like this is just sort of doing a little bit of everything and nothing all at once. But in this case, it works. Now I did look at some of these variations and they're crazy. If you read them out all the way, like it's these pretty massive fights, especially after white responds this way. And you know, black might capture these 2 stones, which again helps this group. But now all of a sudden, I don't know, this feels really rough for black. Let me turn off the numbers here. Like black takes a lot of profit at top, totally helps this group, but look at this black group. This feels unhealthy. But as far as Orbo's concerned, Orbo's like, this is good for black. And I'm looking at this going, this is scary. Like, I don't want to be in this position. This is just ridiculous. But anyway, Robot says it's good. So, but you can understand my fear, right? Like when I'm looking at this and my direction of play radar is saying, okay, this is the most important area. And the robot's kind of like, oops, we play this one. Let me just go forward, yeah. And this sort of mainline variation, the robot's saying, oh yeah, that's fine. Like this is not the most important area. Or actually in this case, the robot says more like, oh yeah, we can do another sacrifice, kind of save the group thing. Oh man, I don't want to go down the Alice in Wonderland rabbit hole too much, but like we're just giving it up, right, in exchange for this corner and the top. And it makes sense. I think you can kind of see it's like, okay, this isn't that big. Like we're really giving up maybe close to 20 points, but in exchange for it, we're getting, we're capturing the stones here, we're building up the corner, we're getting all the influence at the top. That's probably worth more than 20 points. But man, as a human, so hard, so non-intuitive. It's painful. All right, so let's go back. So anyway, in the game, even though I reason that this is most important, I kind of think, oh, you know what? But if I play here, this will help me fix this naturally. Right, because now there's a lot of pressure on the white corner. If the white corner struggles, that'll help me build on the outside. And indeed, that's what happens. White pushes, and I'm like, okay, this is great. Now I can actually help fix all these shapes, get more strength, and then come back and attack. But if you look at this graph, this is the story of momentum. This is where you can actually see this little downtrend that happens pretty suddenly and, over the next 10, 15 moves, where I am losing ground. Something is wrong with this strategy. And I'll give you guys a second to try to figure out what that might be. But let's take a look at what happens in the game. First of all, where do you think I played? Well, I played the very natural move. I extended here. But look at this point hit. Just look at it. Minus 21%. This is terrible. Instead, what I should be thinking about isn't so much worried about disconnecting this one stone from this low corner group, but really at this point turn all my attention onto this group. After this connection, my top is very strong. And because it's very strong, that means I can attack safely from other directions that might run this group over here to injure this. This move that I played does not attack directly enough. Yes, it attacks this stone and kind of keeps a little pressure on the corner, but after this extension, after this exchange, the corner can't be killed. So it's really just sort of like attacking this one stone. However, this move attacks this one stone real poorly, like so poorly. You can actually see there's an immediate defect right here, or white can threaten to link, and if I block, white can play something like this. And white's already kind of looking like it's totally fine. This is not the most efficient. You can see black took a little lead here, but again, we're looking at the emergency case variations. So if we ask the robot, instead of extending here, the robot says, don't care about these 2 stones. You have to strengthen this group now directly by attacking white's weakness. And I'm going to turn off the variations. And the robot finds this move. And again, this is very similar to when the robot kind of threw a stone here, except this is even more severe. Because we're stronger at the top, we can go another line of severity. Isn't this psychotic? Like, isn't this just madness? I mean, it totally makes sense when you realize, oh, white kind of has a liberty problem. But if we play this out... oh no, here comes the coughing. All right, let's drink more of the nut fruit tea that was a mistake. Should not exist. Again, if white runs out, we can, oops, I'm going to leave that on, turn off variations. You can see, best move looks like it's here, that right now we're still looking like we're going to capture these 2 stones. It's not definitive yet. These 3 stones are weak, but because this is weak and this is weak, they should be totally fine. If white essentially clamps and takes our 3 stones, we can threaten, and in this case we can just tanuki. I don't even know anymore. I don't even know. But here's as an alternative, if you can't find this variation that makes that same exchange, if you're not willing to give this up, all right, we made white play all these low stones, so we should be more willing to give up than I was. Look at the winning percentages for all these moves. I know they're not reading out a lot of variations, so these will probably go up and down. But basically, if I throw any stone in this area of the board, right, these are all winning moves, quote unquote, for me. The one that I played is not. And again, it's because I have to take advantage of making my group strong first. It's so confusing. It's very difficult. But whenever you waste, or not waste, but you use a little bit of Aji to strengthen something, you have to find a way to continue to build on it. And this doesn't build it, because if I get strong here, and I get strong here, but white also gets strong here, and then strong here, who wins? Who makes out? Well, white does. White gets the corner points. This stone might be worthless in the end, but it's still worth, something right now. Basically, it's an entire wash for this kind of the board. But white gets Comey, and white has a few extra points in the corner. So feels a little bit lackluster, like have to find something a little more aggressive. So this extension was when I was reviewing this game with the robot, the first really big surprise at how much the robot did not like this move. Like made me drop my jaw, go like, what? This is the natural move, of course, right? Keep this separated, keep my group strong. No, in this case, it's all about direction. And it's the fact that we spent a move here to make this group strong. I have to capitalize on it and continue harassing white's weakest group. So surprising. In this case, white did play, I think, this move immediately. Yep, that's the game. And here I have another choice. Same thing. I get asked the same question over and over again, and that's why this momentum just keeps kind of falling, because I don't find the right direction. White says, hey, can I connect these 2 groups up? And I'm like, I felt a lot of pain playing this move. Like in my head, my soul, my heart, I don't know, the part that lets you feel things on the go board, I felt like, I should do something over here. I had no idea what. I didn't know what was the right point. And maybe that was the problem. So I was just looking at all these points and going, I don't know what to play. But sure, this seems reasonable. Like disconnecting a weak group. Keeping this group weak felt valuable to me. It is not. My opponent asked again, hey, can I connect up? Again, give me another chance. And I say no. And I can see it's now flipped to white. And then white starts poking at my defects. And then through this whole series, you can see that basically by white getting to play here first, white loses all the momentum until the blunder. This is all good for white. This is all coming up white. I find this move, which is not quite the right move, this one works better, just given the shape. But this one's still interesting. And my opponent does not respond correctly. My opponent should do this and not mind the defect. But in the game, my opponent did this. And I think, in my head, I'm like, okay, this stone now lets me cut. Like, I can now cut. It turns out cutting is really bad. Because even though I capture a couple stones, I only have one eye, and white can take the whole outside. And I'll show you that variation here. Let me show you a little bit what happens in the game first. Let me turn off the robot moves. So the game here in my head, I'm like, oh yeah, I can threaten to cut and threaten to capture 2 stones, and that'll be great for me. All right, there it is. And man, the robot and my brain are having a huge disagreement. The robot is like, no, white is great. Check this out. This is what white should do. This is not what happens in the game. It should just cover like this. And if you're black, you can kind of see a little bit of the problem, maybe. If we turn the robot on, I think the robot's going to have us take this Atari. Yeah. And Atari there. And actually, in this case, it wants white to play this way, but even if white doesn't play, if white just plays another move like this... Question, how many eyes does this black group have? Just one. If black wants another eye, black needs to end in gote. And look at that win percentage, 84% to white. Isn't that crazy? So in this case, white should absolutely give up the stones and just take complete central command of this go board. Fantastic result for white. Unfortunately, or fortunately, I don't know whose side you guys are on. None of that happened. Let's go back here. My push and cut. Oh, it's interesting. It's now complicated. It's saying this is good for black? What? It totally recalculated that position. What is it saying black should do? Oh, it's black to play here? Oh my god. No, now it's back to white. Okay, you lied. This move is a lie. Katago, what are you doing? It's like, yes, this is the way for black. 77% winning move. By the way, this is the way for white. 80% winning move. How if I restart the pondering? I don't think I've ever seen it glitch this badly. Okay, I figured it out. All right. I don't know what I got stuck on, but it finally figured it out. I've never seen it glitch that badly and for that long. All right, anyway. If we see this, yeah, you can just see this is all bad for black. You can just see that train wreck happening. But, like I said, luckily for us, even though I've lost all this momentum from not playing in this direction first, right, my weak group is very much getting pressured, my opponent, Atari's the other direction. And Atari in this direction isn't bad. Like, it's still winning for white, but then the blunder. And so I play here. And my opponent, thinking he's, I don't know, fixing shape somehow, or I don't know, saving liberties, I think is probably the wisdom, connects here. And this, look at this blunder, 30% swing. What a blunder. So why is this a blunder? Well, number one, actually black has all sorts of good moves. Basically anything over here. And let's just play the super normal one. Just make a mouth shape to make an eye. This group, still not alive. Like this connecting here does not make 2 eyes. Second, this group of mine, after making a mouth shape and capturing the stone, super strong. Like we're on the outside, we already have an eye. And now white has this little string of stones as a liability, and this group is still a liability. White has 2 liabilities here in this position. And meanwhile, white has really not really much resources to attack, like not many weaknesses for black. Yes, true, white can live by immediately playing here and get 2 eyes, but again, that's gote, living in gote real bad. If white wants to live here, that means black's going to take this corner and attack the string of stones. Immediate swing, immediate turnaround. And so what white should have done here, after this move, is play this one. And now this one looks like it's either the same or even a little bit worse compared to this connection. But look at the difference. How does black take advantage of this? Well, black can turn here. But now white is guaranteed 2 eyes. So that's not very good. Any other moves? Black can peep here. But that's going to invite another fight that looks... well, it's fine for everybody, basically. White is going to basically make 2 eyes by pushing out, and then get Sentei to come back down here and play. Also good for white. So there's not much actual, like it looks really bad in terms of shape. Like you'd feel normally kind of nervous just having this type of connection. But there's really not much black can do. You know, if black tries to falsify the eye, like, it doesn't work. Obviously, the stone can't run anywhere. Like, this is just an eye. Like, it's sort of like a mouth shape, but kind of demented, and it's missing a stone. But it's good enough to make an eye. And so when white plays this way, this isn't good enough to make an eye. And it's such a huge difference, right? Just like this stone versus this stone. And so anyway, all the momentum that white was building up is now lost after this blunder. I make this exchange, white fixes, has to come back and fix. Now white has two eyes, but there's still some ways for me to poke white. Again, keep that in mind in that Atari. I have this peep. This attachment is also working. So I play a very conservative move here, especially after getting this extra liberty. For this 3 stones, I should play something a little more aggressive. I play very conservative, but it's still a good position. White plays here, again, yeah, okay. Katago is really kind of slow on the uptick. We play a somewhat kind of bubbly, nice-looking sequence, but all this basically, by letting black solidify the corner and white still unsettled, this is all to black's advantage. So coming out of this one blunder, right, that little momentum shift where white was really leaning on this group and no longer can lean on it because of really this blunder, totally swings the momentum in black's favor. And so I profit from all this. White's going to take these pokes and try to have a group that looks healthy. I assure you it still has problems. We're going to come through here. We'll play something normal, kind of Joseki-like. White gets a little momentum back because I'm probably working a little bit too hard to solidify this as territory directly rather than continuing to put pressure on white on the open sides of the board. So my conservatism loses a little bit of momentum. This is also a big loss. I should immediately just take this peep. This is a nice move, both threatening to take away the eye or cut. I thought there was a chance in game that white wouldn't play this right now, or this was too slow of a move. And I felt like this was always my point. Like, white never has time to play this. White already came back and had to live in Gote, so how would white justify living in Gote again? But white totally did, and so that was a little bit sad. But still, if I put the robot on, you can see this little stupid Atari is the best move on the board. Isn't that crazy? Like normally Go teachers would yell at students for making this exchange, but it's double sente. Like, both players can take it in sente. And it might not seem like much, but if white gets it, if white gets it, how does black fix shape? Is it here? Okay, well, if black fixes this way, now there's actually still a little bit of a defect over here. And white can use that to invade this. Like, there's still a little bit of a hole. And meanwhile, if black takes it and white has to respond, and I'm telling you right now, it's more or less double sente. You can see, yeah, white can still poke over here, but it's not nearly like this is a hard cut, right? Cutting into a mouth shape is real hard. So much more manageable. And meanwhile, also keep in mind, this living group has two eyes, is real close to being completely sealed in. Like, really close. And so this one little exchange is very subtle, but it's very nice. Primarily because it's just double sente-ish enough. All right, so anyway, I don't get it. We don't play it for a while, which is, you'll see some jagged back and forth because the robot wants everybody to play this move. I play this attachment, which is fine. It's one of the variations. Again, not the best move, but still totally winning percentage. And I play more or less kind of a somewhat robot-recommended sequence without this Hane, though. I should probably make shape this way. Yeah, do something like this. This is much more stylish. You know, leave a little bit of strength over here that is kind of a nuisance for white because black is always threatening this ko. Anyway, this isn't the real part I want to show you because the next part is actually a real crystal clear lesson. If that whole first half was really confusing, well, that's okay. I'm still confused by it too. But this next little lesson about this momentum shift and blunder is going to make a lot more sense. Okay, well, let's get back on track. Let's play over here. We cut, we fight, we started this other fight. And basically, I'm allowing myself to be cut in two with this move. I'm saying, okay, I'm going to welcome a fight because if you go after these two stones really severely, I've got another target lined up right over here. I've got another turkey to hunt. And white's turkey actually is stronger than I think. But I'm still going to hunt it. That's still fine. White plays all these moves. We play here. We play mostly the robot recommended variation, except there's a little bit of question mark there. But then here, the part that I'm not really keeping in the back of my head, and one of the reasons why you see this momentum start to really drop off to the point where it reaches a potentially game-ending blunder, is because this group that I worked so hard for, and I got, in the end, a very good result because of white's Gote life, can still come under attack. It really only has one eye, and it has a really annoying peep. All right, can you imagine if it looks more like this? Oh, I want you to go away. Like, now look at this black group. We only have one eye. I have to work hard to find the second eye. Now, in this case, the robot's freaking out because it's like, black has no problem finding a second eye here. This is way too thin. But what's going to happen is, by creating a weak group over here, I'm going to create some opportunities for white to play moves that threaten both weak groups. And that's the problem. That's why this turns into a blunder. So by starting another fight that could affect a weak group of mine, really dangerous. Really dangerous. All right, so I play here. This is fine, but then this is the start of a real downward trend here. In this case, I need to be absolutely 100% mindful that this is a little bit of a weak group, and this has some weakness as well. What I should not be doing is going balls out, saving every stone, and attacking this as fiercely as possible, because this group, number one, already has a lot of liberties, right? It looks like 7, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 liberties. It has some cuts and pushes to take advantage of. Like, it is feistier than it looks. And especially given the fact that this is not completely solid and this is not completely safe, I have to be very careful. But lo and behold, I'm gonna save this stone. I'm not gonna let white push it around. Well, white's gonna ask if he can push it around again. And I'm gonna say no. But you can see that I'm just losing momentum here. As the more I hang on to this idea, instead of playing any move that really helps this group or this group, I just get further and further into trouble. I think that'll fix itself. I think Katago is having a little bit of a freak out. Or it just really likes the move. I don't think it likes the move that much, though. Usually you don't... There it goes, okay. Man, I don't know what's going on in my system today. All right, white presses out again, and you can start to see what's happening. I extend again, and boom. Well, I don't think it's a 30% blunder, but it's still a big blunder. We'll see if that fixes. It might feel like this group is making a lot of territory at the top, and while also simultaneously reaching out to this weak group, but I assure you that's not really the case. That's not really what's going on. Because white's going to be able to lean on this for more strength, this is going to be stronger than I think, and it's going to be able to fight. White throws in here. I defend. White comes here. I come on top. Like, my sequence is fine, but so I'm like fully aware of what's happening now. I'm like, okay, white's getting too strong. I may have overcommitted to building 5th and 6th line territory. let me try to connect my weak groups. And meanwhile, I have my own thing to lean on, right? This white stick is actually quite weak if white doesn't respond. So these are pretty much Sente. And I should be doing these at any time. I should probably be playing moves like this. This is probably a little bit better. Because not only is it threatening to seal white in with this move, this is a very big move. If white does, it's actually threatening to get ahead of this stick group just the same. So this would be a nice combination for black. And you can see how the winning percentage reflects that. Okay. But we don't do that. This move's fine. And this move. Blunder. Okay. So white has had this momentum building. I have to keep my eye on the prize. Right? Like, no choice. Have to run out. If white wants to live here, I have to just say, yep, white gets to live here. There's nothing I can do about it. This is very pig-headed. This is saying, we're all going to run to the middle. No one is going to be alive. No one is going to be happy. And who does that benefit? Well, It certainly benefits the person with the fewer number of weak groups. And in this case, that's white. If you look at this white group, that's the weak one. There's no way for me to disconnect this. Oops. Here, if I play here, that's a good move, right? You can already feel the pressure on this black group getting real scary. If I'm like, aha, but I kill you, that's not true at all. Like, there's no way for black to separate. I can poke out eyes. That part might be true, but can't separate. I basically have to play this, but this is all just good momentum for white. You know, I can try some variations here, but again, this is super dangerous. Again, I can try something here. In this case, it even doesn't want white to play here. It wants white to continue to play the outside. You can see that winning percentage is just remaining consistent, close to 70% for white. Very, very scary, unfortunate variation. And in the end, this might turn into a Seki. Right now, this is looking very Seki-ish. Or some sort of compromise will be reached. But, oh man. If white can build a Seki here and surround the outside, then this group's going to be very weak, and white's going to have a very large claim to the bottom. So white's going to have all the momentum here. All right, so, but luckily for me, white blundered. So instead of being focused on where all these groups need to run to, white asks, I think, if he can have one eye. And Gote. Because white plays here. And this is just even the biggest blunder of the game so far, to this point. Until we get to the endgame, I'm going to make a really big one. So this is just completely lacking in the direction of this game. And you can see once I start to push out here, all this momentum just favors me now, right? Because I'm actually coming out and around this white stick, and I make this cut, and just look at how this ends up developing. I get to peep there, and then I take the stone here. Let's turn off. So I just lean on this stick, give up the 5 stones here to get a Panuki, basically a lot of strength connecting these two groups. White stick is still not 100% alive. This can be threatened. We're looking at a 98% win percentage for black now because white played here. What a blunder, right? And that was the moment once white played on the inside. I was like, okay, go. I just got to play the outside, fix all the things from the center viewpoint of the board. So good. White tries a cut, tries a bunch of this, but doesn't really work. White does eventually find a way to more or less make this safe by attacking these 4 stones. White also does damage to my top in the process. So not only, well, I should say, I kind of exchange points in the top here for capturing the center stones. All right, I'm going to fast forward a little bit. This bottom part is confusing, but I do just want to get to the blunder. Oh, this is actually a really interesting point in the game too. I should show this one that I played a really bad move, but I don't think the AI punished me for it. The AI said this move is actually fine, which is weird. I think the preferred move is just jump. Anyway, this is the case where I have this captured, so all these stones are pretty strong here, and white has sort of had this very loose framework built, but is kind of weak as well. And so it's how do you fight with this stone? And I pick here. I'm like, I can kind of compromise, right? I'll just take these 3 stones, and I counted, and I was like, I have enough points to win. If you know, I collect these 3, and white maybe captures this one. But man, it got so much more complicated than that. Because we played this way. And this is not actually a threat to capture these. Fun fact. So this wedge works. Sort of. I mean, to a point. And I play this cut. And, oh, okay. Good. That was not the blunder yet. And so far, this is still kind of all working for black. Because white still needs to save this. And this is not alive. And there's weaknesses here and here. So it's real confusing. Man, it keeps having a weird freak out. But to here, this is still fine. White tries to save this stone. This was kind of my shock. I was like, how are you going to save this? But, wait for it. After this turn, you can see there's a liberty problem for these white stones, yes? And I'm like, aha. I'll capture you. This is wrong. A minus 60% blunder. Why is it wrong? Well, it's wrong because if white actually just forces me to capture these three and plays out a sequence that looks like this, you can see a problem here with this black group. Even without that, like, I don't... Let's disconnect. Total problem with the black group. One eye. And even though, you know, black could capture this, it's not. This is not big enough. This is actually enough for... the board's pretty even, actually, believe it or not, in terms of territory, but white gets Comey, so white wins the game. So giving up all this, not equal to this and this. So this is a giant blunder. Instead, well, here's maybe the homework for you guys. Instead of playing this move, what should black have done? Can anyone figure it out? And keep in mind, there's a few considerations. Well, black doesn't, even though white doesn't have two eyes, black doesn't have a lot of liberties over here. There's actually not a lot of time. But the correct move is here. And the best white can do, let's play out what the robot thinks the best thing to do is. It's going to look really messy at the end, because it's a long read. Atari. Oh, what? This is different than my read before. What just happened here? I think that I'm playing moves too blindly here. Here. Okay. Before, when I read this out, what ended up happening is white and black both made a group, and it actually goes to a giant ko at the bottom, or a seki. White has the option. But if it's seki, that's great for black. If it's ko, and black should win the ko fight. So I spent a while looking at this, and now the robot isn't repeating the variations, so now I'm sad that none of my preparations for this have paid off. Because apparently this works. Alright, but it still says black's a winner, so let's just see what the robot says now. It's the best. Okay, so now it just says, it's basically saying white will live here and capture this, but black will capture this and just have a giant corner. Neat. Neat. Alright. Yeah, my earlier read basically had this devolving to a giant group, white group here that was cut off from everything, and then the black group here, and I guess it's totally irrelevant now. Thanks, robot. So many variations. Anyway, this is still the move. You still have to find this as black. Because if white plays this kind of move, this still works, right? White can't connect. And if white does, there's actually this dumpling shape can be eaten, so black has time to live in the corner. Alright, what actually happened in the game, you ask? Well, I just played this abruptly, and instead of playing here, white took here, which by itself you would think would be the same. But apparently it's very different because of this dumpling shape that gets left. It's amazing, like this one little, this is an amazing difference from here to here. Like it's night and day. Look at that scoring. And it's just a simple way to answer basically an Atari, an approach move Atari. And this one even looks better, right? Capturing a stone is better. We're putting more pressure on the black corner. Like, this looks better. This is so hard for a Go player on a 30-second time limit to be able to read out and conclude, oh, I need to play this one. So hard. But if my opponent did, this would be game over. And so even this blunder was a huge blunder because of the time limit and the tempting nature of just taking a stone rather than gaining more liberties. So it would be so hard for my opponent to find it. Like, so hard. Because then black has this move. Isn't that crazy? Here we can play out some of the same sequence. If white takes the corner, again, black has this move. White has the choice, connect here or connect here. If we save it, it doesn't matter. Looks like we can play that in Sente. And capturing race between this black group and this white stick. You can see black wins by 2 moves, essentially. Yeah. So, all right. Going back to the actual game, I just took, and my opponent played here, which I guess, is that still correct? I thought in my own reading, I thought this one was better. I thought this was the better move, but apparently the robot now thinks they played the right one. Okay. It's very similar. He takes, and again, this still works because my opponent captured instead of playing here. And so this blunder was totally fine. In the end, my opponent also decided to come back and save this rather than save this. He should play here, of course, and let me capture back here because this is still going on. This is kind of what I gained for sacrificing the corner. This is my actual profit. But he didn't. He insisted on saving it, which meant I then got to kill all this. And that's the game, right? If you play this all the way to the end, which I don't know why he did after this. He tried some things, but of course nothing works here. There's nothing, White can do, and it's just a huge loss because all this is dead. Not close. So, yeah. This was not my best game. Again, under the influence of a little bit of a cold. But there were some real turning points and that made this pretty fascinating to study, right, in terms of these blunders, going all the way back to this really hard, subtle one. Instead of playing there, also playing there would have been a better shape for black too, which is interesting. But my opponent kind of miffing here, swinging and missing with the wrong shape move, even though this one fixes everything and makes you an eye. You have to play that one. You can't play the one that doesn't do all the things you need to do and expect to win. Then momentum picks up and shifts gently because it takes me way too long to figure out that I need to be in the center of the board here, not trapped along the side. It takes me way too long to figure that out. But luckily, again, my opponent blundered and kind of got me out of trouble. So I was able to take all the momentum here. And then this last blunder, after I've secured all the momentum, all the things I need to basically win the game, despite making it really complicated. This blunder here is very difficult to see, right? Because it's so tempting to take that stone. And so white, like I had one big blunder, and white sort of had like 2.5, at least in that analysis. So anyway, I hope you appreciate this little, albeit confusing, though hopefully informative discussion about momentum and blunders in Go. I'm hoping I'll recover from this illness pretty quickly. It's moved totally down in my chest, and so it's just, one of those things you lie down at night and you start coughing and sneezing and feel a glock. But during the day, I'm kind of okay. And anyway, hopefully that'll improve, and my next game will be of higher quality. Let's just say that. I think some of you guys do appreciate watching some of the train wrecks, but I do try to give you guys quality games to learn from on this channel. I might still be tempted to play more ugly taisha games because I don't feel like I've gotten that right. Although my understanding of taisha leads me to believe that I'll never get it right, so I should probably give up. These are very nihilistic Go questions. Anyway, happy going. I'll see you guys next time.